Hello, I'm Jimmy Sills. We're here in Santa Rosa, California today at the shops of Bob Consani Racing. And along with Steve Smith Motorports, we're going to talk about the technology of sprint car racing. Because any winner can tell you that the difference between winning and losing is all done here in the shop. This is where the races are actually won. So we're going to take this car today. We're going to do a basic setup, show you how to free up the rear end of the car, make it square, because a sprint car is over 65% a rear weight, so most of the driving is done from the rear wheels. Then we're going to take the car and we're going to put it on scales and do some different tests with wheel offsets, tire pressure, stagger, and cross weight, and see where all the weight goes in a car. Then we're going to take each corner of the car step by step. We're going to talk about what to do in different track conditions, from a sticky condition to a slick condition, and each corner of the car will explain different changes you can make to the car. Then we'll talk some about wings, and we'll even go to the racetrack and study some driving patterns and track conditions. But first we're going to talk about safety, because that should be foremost in every racer's mind. So let's get started. The first topic in our safety section today, we're going to start with the feet and work our way up. Feet is probably the biggest fire danger in a sprint car, because most of the fires in a sprint car come from a blown engine, and the fire comes from the oil pan and will end up around your feet. So it's important to wear a good approved shoe that's fire resistant, and this is a new sprint shoe that actually has a flap over the laces to keep the laces from burning off and keeps them from getting oiled up. Another important point is you should always make sure your shoes don't get oily. There's a lot of oil around the driver's feet from the torque tube, the engine, what have you. And you don't want to make torches out of your feet, so it's important to keep those clean. Under the shoes, it's important to wear a Nomex sock, nylon socks, rayon. Any synthetic stock will stick to your skin and cause more damage than the heat otherwise would. Okay, moving on to the race suit, it's important to have the race suit, make sure your cuffs fit down over your shoes so you don't leave any bare skin exposed there in the ankle area. And this is a boot cut, and it helps cover the ankle area a little bit more. It works out real nice. Also, you should make sure that your Velcro is sticking well on your neck so it doesn't come loose and expose any skin on your neck. Double layer suits with underwear or triple layer suits are mostly recommended. This is a honeycomb material here. It's fairly light and breathes well and makes a comfortable suit. The underwear is very important for an insulator. You can have the best racing suit in the world, and it's still going to transfer heat to your skin. So the underwear works as an insulator between the suit and your skin and gives you a little more time in the car during a fire. Gloves are very important because your hands are going to be busy trying to get your buckle unbuckled, and that's usually where the fire is. All extremities are more acceptable to fire damage. So double layer gloves are very important. Neck collars are important to save your collarbone. If you get in a crash, the helmet will impact the collarbone and causes collarbone breakage and damage. If you haven't started already, it's a good idea to wear earplugs while you're racing, because you will have hearing damage in a matter of time. And you can ask any of the older race car drivers if they can still hear you, and they'll all tell you that they have hearing damage. Arm restraints are mandatory in most racing associations, I think probably all racing associations. It's usually important to keep your arms inside the car. It's also important to keep these adjusted so your arms can't reach outside the roll cage. A lot of guys will put them on, but they leave them loose, and then they're doing absolutely no good. Helmet restraint serves two purposes. One, it helps support your neck during cornering forces and keeps your neck from getting tired. And two, it also supports your helmet in the event of a crash and keeps your head from whipping around. Helmets in dirt racing, it's important to use a Lexan shield around 100 thousandths, 120 thousandths thick, such as this one here. Also, there's a lot of rocks traveling on dirt racetracks, as you can see by the chips on this helmet. So it's important to keep an eye on the shell of your helmet, make sure you aren't damaging the shell of the helmet. When you put your tear-offs on, make sure you bend the tab on each tear-off and stack them on top of each other, so as you tear off, the other tab is up and ready to grab the next one. Also mount these on a extender that's on an eccentric, so you can keep your tear-offs tight during a race, keep air from blowing under them and blowing the tear-offs off. And that pretty much covers this section on safety, and we'll go to the car now. The first thing a driver looks for when he sits down in the seat of his race car is how his seat fits him. The driver wants the seat to fit tight around the rib area to support his body from going side to side. Also, he wants it to fit tight around the leg area to keep his legs from flopping around. And he wants the seat to fit above the shoulder blade in the back to prevent shoulder blade injuries. This is one reason that high back seats have become so popular, is they've drastically reduced shoulder injuries, and they also leave a good headrest for the back. Then we move down to the way the seat belts are mounted. Most seat belts are mounted to the frame now. One thing you need to watch out for is that the seat belt doesn't allow it to slide down the bar, and then you buckle up and you think the seat belt is tight, and then during a race it slides up and loosens up. So you need to tape or put some plastic ties around here to keep that movement from happening. Also tape the webbing up so it keeps it from sliding through the mechanism and loosening up. Then we go up to the lap belt, how it mounts around your waist, and you want the lap belt to pull you down and slightly back. And this is really important to have this tight. This is the basis of your whole seatbelt system. And there's a couple of ways to do this, is to do it yourself and keep adjusting the belt until you can just barely pull it tight and latch it. And another way is to latch it and have one of your crew members pull on the webbing and pull it tight after you're in the car. Okay, the first thing we'll do is we'll hook the shoulder harnesses up to the buckle, and then put the arm restraint around there, and then the submarine belt and the other harness. Okay, we latch the lap belt, making sure it's very tight, and then pull the submarine belt tight. And I like to have an adjustable submarine belt so you can always keep that as tight as possible. And then you go up to the shoulder harnesses, and when you're ready to go racing, we tighten those up. Now moving to the knee area, legs are important to keep centered in the car. During a crash, the legs will tend to flop around inside the car, so for that reason we put a knee guard in here. There's nothing soft about the steering with fittings coming out of the side of it, so we want to keep our knees away from that. The driver may prefer to put some padding on this for some extra comfort, but the main purpose is deflection away from fittings like this. Then we go to the steering wheel. In the steering wheel position, you want to put it onto the shaft and make sure that your hands are not in the way of any of the spokes, and while you're driving where everything feels comfortable. Also, we don't want to forget to put the pin in, and I like to be able to get in and out of my car without taking the steering wheel off, because there's always a chance of leaving this undone. Also up here, it's a good idea to have your shut-off switch where it's easily accessible, easy to turn on and off, and your fuel switch where it's easy to find. For fire danger, it's important to have your firewall sealed off with no gaping holes in it. If you have some holes in it, you can tape them off from the motor side just to keep the fluids from leaking through. And now that we've taken care of the safety aspect of racing, let's talk about the fun part. Now we're ready to start the setup portion of this tape. We always want to leave the shop at the same setup that we always go to the racetrack with to keep ourselves from chasing around at the racetrack. If we go with the same setup, we always have a basis to start from. We always want our car to be free, no binds in any of the suspension. We want everything square. We don't want any weird angles to make our car act funny. So to start with, we want to make sure we're going with the same fuel level. We checked our fuel, and we got about 10 gallons of fuel. We want to start with a fairly light fuel load. And now we want to check our tire stagger. The racetrack we're going to is a fairly flat, wide-cornered racetrack, and it's going to take about 15 inches of stagger to turn the car at this racetrack. So we checked our right rear tire, and it's 104 inches around. And now we'll check the circumference of our left rear tire. and it's about 89.5 inches, and then we can go to their tape where it says 104.5 inches, and it's pretty close to 15 inches of staggers. So that's where we're going to start. And from here we'll go on and we'll show you how to square the rear end of the car and block the car to get all the torsion bars where everything's neutral, and we have a good starting point. And now we're going to set the heights of the car and neutralize all the torsion bars at the same time. And we do that by blocking the car. And we're going to block this car with a 3-inch block in the back, which sets the ride height. If you use a 3.5-inch block, it's going to make the car ride a little bit lower. The shorter the block, the higher the ride height. So we do this by placing the block in between the frame rail and the axle, and then we jack the car up until both rear wheels come off the floor. Then after both wheels are off the floor, then everything is neutralized. We're all at the same height. And you can see here by the adjuster bolt, this is just neutralized. If you just run this down finger tight against the stop, then we're at a neutral position. And this is a beast chassis, and something that Bob has done, I think, which is pretty innovative, is he's taken the anchor and putting it up on the cage brace. Most cars have the anchor on the torsion tube, and eventually this tube will get dimpled by the adjuster bolt, and it'll lock against the bushing for the torsion bar and not allow the bushing or the bar to work in the bushing. So he's moved it up here to stop that. Also, it's another good reason to take weight off the car whenever you're adjusting the torsion bar bolt to stop from it prevents wear on the anchor here and keeps from dimpling the pad. So this is another innovation that's come around in sprint car racing recently. Now that we've established the ride height on our race car from blocking the entire car, we also block the front, and we use 2.5-inch blocks at the front because we want the ride height a little bit higher up front. So now we establish the ride height, and we take a measurement between the frame rail and the floor, and we cut a set of blocks for each side. Now this measurement is going to be different on each side because of the tilt of the chassis. And then we set the frame on top of these blocks because we're going to move the rear end and the rear axle around and square it up and center it in the car. So as you can see, we have the radius rod unhooked and the Jacob's ladder, the shock unhooked, and we have the torsion arms completely off the car. This way we can move the rear axle back and forth, and we can move it side to side also. So now that we have that where it's freed up and we can put it wherever we want to square everything up. So we take a tape and put the tape on the front edge of the rear axle, and using a straight edge off the motor plate, we take a measurement. And then we go to the other side and take a measurement of the other side the same way off the motor plate into the front of the axle, and we want to have this exactly square. That means everything is going to be freed and square in the car, and then we can start hooking up the rest of the suspension. Now that we have our rear end centered and square in the car by measuring to the motor plate, now we're going to time our bird cage. This is important because if the bird cage is rocked one way or another, it'll tend to roll steer the race car. And we do this with a stagger on the car because we want to do it under race conditions. If you set your car up on a flat shop floor and then you put stagger in the car, then it changes the dimension of everything. So we do this under race conditions. And we time our bird cage by adjusting the length of our radius rod until a bubble on our level indicates that it's level. Now we're ready to put the torsion arm on, and we're going to adjust the torsion arm length with this hymen in the end. And this way, if something is bent in the back, then we can still be free and square to the bird cage. We want to have it where we can hook this arm on the torsion bar, and this bolt will slide in perfect and bolt up. And keep it and recheck the bird cage timing with the level. Keep rechecking your measurement to the motor plate. After we have all this, then we're ready to move and check the torque tube. Now with our rear end square in the car, we want to check to make sure our torque ball is free. The torque ball and the torque tube is the nucleus to all the suspension systems in the back. If this is in a bind, then nothing else behind it can work properly. So we reach down here and make sure this ball will spin freely. This is also a good quick check at the racetrack. If you get into a bumper bang, you can check that and make sure your torque tube isn't bent, and that's a good indicator that something is out of square in the back of the car. After we make sure that is free, then we can move to the back of the car and hook up the Jacob's ladder. And that's the last thing we hook up, because that's what's going to hold the rear end located in the center of the car, and we want to make sure that it's centered before we hook it up. So by adjusting the clevis in and out and making the pin so it goes in free into the Jacob's ladder, now we can center the car with the Jacob's ladder, and we're ready to move on. Now that we have the rear end square in the car, we're ready to square the front end to it, because we want the front end to track true with the rear end. So we're going to do that by measuring the front axle to the rear axle. We take our tape and put it on the front edge of the rear axle and go to the back edge of the front axle. We want this measurement to be square, and some guys run a little bit of lead in the right front and maybe an eighth or a quarter of an inch longer wheelbase on the right side than the left side. But we're going to run square, because we like everything to be just square. We aren't going to do anything trick today. Okay, after we do that, then we want to check and center our front axle in the car. And we have to have something to measure from, so we take a straight edge and put it between the top frame rail and the bottom frame rail. And we take our straightest possible route between our straight edge and the kingpin and take a measurement from there. And we go to the other side and get a measurement over there, and we have to keep in mind that like a 51 or a 52-inch axle is an inch or 2 inches longer on the right side, so we have to take into account that measurement. Okay, after we have that in line, and to adjust the center, the axle in the center of the car, we do that from the pannered rod inside the car here. You lengthen it to push it one way and shorten it to push it the other way. Okay, after we have our axle center in the car, we're going to check our toe out. And we do that by placing the tape across the car and putting it to the inner side of the wheel. And we have to watch out that we don't put the tape on a dent or a warped part of the wheel, so we get a misreading. And make sure when we put the tape through the car that we aren't wrapping it around a frame rail or an air box on our radiator. We want to get our straightest possible route between our measurements. Okay, after we measure the back part of the wheel, then we go to the front side. And we measure the same there, also making sure that we don't have the tape in a dent or wrapped around something. Okay, we want to tow our front end out about 1/8 of an inch. So we want an 1/8 inch longer measurement on the front than we had in the back. And we adjust that by lengthening or shortening the length of the tie rod. Okay, now that we have our tow out set, we're going to go check our caster. And our caster is going to let us drive the car straighter down the straightaway, and it gives the driver a better feel. So we take a level protractor and we set it on the steering arm like so. We level the bubble on the protractor and check the number here. And we want about 10 degrees of caster. That gives us the best feel down the straightaway. And we adjust that by moving the radius rods, lengthening or shortening. And because we've already squared to the rear axle, we don't want to change this measurement, so we'll take and put a mark on both radius rods. So when we want to turn the top, let's say we're going to put more caster in it, then we want to shorten the top one turn, and then we'll lengthen the bottom the same. This way it keeps the axle still square with the rear end and doesn't change our measurement there. So now we're all squared and freed up, and we're ready to start going racing. Okay, now we're going to select our torsion bars and start setting up our car to go race. As far as torsion bar rates go, you can pretty much put a 1025 torsion bar in all four corners of your race car, and that's a good middle-of-the-road spring rate for anywhere you want to race. Then if your car is too soft in the right rear, then you can stiffen up that corner. If it's dipping on the left front getting into the corner, then you can stiffen up that corner. Okay, we grease the bushing on both sides of the torsion bar and get plenty of grease on it, and then we also grease the center of the torsion bar, because the bar can wrap up and bow inside the tube and rub inside the tube and cause a bind in there. So For that reason, we want to lube this up too, so if it rubs against the tube, it doesn't bind and snap back and cause the car to do something funny. Okay, then we install it into the torsion tube, and we want to make sure that we keep the numbers towards the arm or towards the stop, whichever way you want to do it. But whatever way you do it, you want to continue to do the same thing every time you install the torsion bar, because we don't want to unwrap the torsion bar. Also, you should keep the torsion bars in the same corners of the car. If you're going to run a torsion bar in the left front, you can run the same torsion bar in the right rear, and vice versa. But you don't want to take a left front, right rear bar and put it into the right front or left rear corner of the car. So always mark your torsion bars what corner of the car they're going in, and you don't ever change them. Don't ever get them mixed up. And if you always have the arm with a number on it, then you don't ever get mixed up that way. So we're going to torque the bolts on the stop and the arm with a torque wrench to make sure we have the right tightness. We don't want the bolt to be too tight and strip the threads on the nut and loosen up, and then we lose our suspension. So we'll torque both sides. 35 pounds on each side. We'll go over here to the arm. Also, we want to make sure we have about the gap of a thin dime in between our bushing and the arm. That way, when the bar twists inside the tube, it leaves a little bit of gap and won't bind up against the bushings. Okay, now we have our bar installed. It's free, it's got a little bit of in-play in it. The bushings are nice and free. Then we go back over to our adjuster bolt. And we're going to neutralize the car. So we just wind this bolt up until it goes against the anchor, and it's finger tight now. Okay, now everything is neutralized, and we'll do the same thing on the other bar. We'll loosen up the jam nut, loosen up the adjuster bolt, and wind it down until it's finger tight. Now the car is neutral and we're ready to put wedge in it. Okay, now we're ready to put wedge or cross weight into our car. We're going to start with a little bit of right rear weight, which is a good place to start about any racetrack, and you can kind of judge after you get to the track, and track conditions will adjust for it. Best way to put right rear weight into your car without changing your chassis height, now that we've got every corner blocked up and level, we'll add into each corner. So you have to keep in mind that each corner affects the opposite corner of the car. So the left front affects the right rear, the right front affects the left rear. So we're going to do what we call Xing the car, and we're going to put a quarter of a turn of weight into the left front and a quarter of a turn into the right rear, and then we'll take a quarter of a turn out of the right front and a quarter of a turn out of the right rear. And it ends up a full turn of right rear weight, and then later we'll put it on the scales and see how much cross weight that actually ends up. So we'll take the bolt, and we got it down finger tight against the stop, and we'll just get a hold of it and put a quarter of a turn into this bar. This is putting it into the left front bar, and then we'll go to the right front stop and we'll take a quarter of a turn out. Okay, now we're on the stop for the right front bar, and we're going to take a quarter of a turn out. Now our bolt is down finger tight against the stop, and we just put our wrench on the bolt and turn a quarter turn out. And we won't put our jam nut down until we have weight on the car, because if we try and tighten the jam nut without any weight, we're going to end up turning the bolt. So we'll wait till we have the car on the ground, and then we'll tighten all our jam nuts. Now we're going to go to the right rear corner of the car, and we're going to put our 1/4 of a turn of weight into the right rear, and then we'll go to the left side, the left rear, and take 1/4 of a turn out. Now we got all our weight set, we can set our car back down on the ground and tighten up our adjuster stop bolts. Okay, now we've got our car ready to go to the racetrack, and we're going to take for granted that this track's going to be pretty sticky and it's a fairly tight corner. So we're going to start with 19 inches of stagger on our car. we already have 1 turn of right rear weight that we've X'd into each torsion bar. And so it's going to add considerable more right rear weight with that stagger. We've also aired our right rear tire up to 14 pounds, so our right rear tire is going to slip in the sticky dirt. And we've also got it set out to a 3-inch offset, so it's stuck out pretty far. So actually the car should be fairly loose and easy to drive for a sticky racetrack. And we put our car on the scales, and with the stagger and the cross weight, we've ended up with 76 pounds of right rear weight. And we're heavy on the left front, heavier on the left front than the right front by 161 pounds. Our right rear weight is 416 pounds. Our left rear is 340 pounds. Our right front is 197, and our left front is 358 pounds. The total weight of our car today is 1,311 pounds, and that's with 15 gallons of fuel. And so now we'll say the track is going to slick up. We're going to tuck our right rear wheel in, and we're going to take some stagger out. Okay, for our first test, we decided that the track was slicking up a little bit, and we wanted the car to tighten up entering the corner. So what we did was we took the right rear wheel and we slid it in closer to the car by 1.5 inches. And what that did for us, besides tightening up our car upon entrance, what it did as far as weight goes, was we gained 28 pounds in difference across the rear. Our right rear difference between the left rear gained by 28 pounds. And our total weights now are the right rear is 428, left rear is 324, the right front is 194, and the left front is 365. Okay, now we got our car where it's entering the corner a little better, but we're still driving off the corner a little bit sideways. So we're going to take some stagger out of the car, and we'll scale it again and see what we have then. Okay, we took 3 inches of stagger out of our car because the car was still hanging a little bit coming off the corner. And this is what happened on the scales. We took and moved 24 pounds of weight across the back from the right rear to the left rear. So now our car is going to drive off the corner a little bit. We've gained 11 pounds on the right front, so now the car is going to be stuck on the front a little more getting in. And if we continue to do this and transfer weight to the left side, eventually the car is going to start to loosen up getting in because we're gaining more weight on the right front. Our total weights now are the right rear 416 pounds, left rear 336, the right front is 205, and the left front is 354. So now we'll take one more step of stagger out and get our car driving off a little straighter yet, and then we'll do some with air pressure. Okay, we lost 4.5 inches of stagger off our car, and now the car is really driving hard coming off the corner. We're getting a little bit loose getting in, but let's see what it did to our weight, because we lost some more right rear weight. We moved 20 pounds of weight across the car. We lost 10 off the right and gained 10 on the left. And we gained a little more on our right front. And our numbers now are the right rear is 406, the left rear is 346, the right front is 211, and the left front is 348. Okay, now we got our car driving real straight off the corner, and we want to tighten it up a little bit getting in, but we don't want to lose our bite coming off the corner. So what we're going to do is we're going to let a little bit of air pressure out of the right rear, and that's going to do a couple of things. It's going to increase left rear weight. It's going to increase the footprint on the tire on the right rear. Plus, then the cornering forces are going to let the tire lay under the car a little bit more, and it's going to be effectively like putting more offset to the wheel, like tucking the wheel in closer to the car, and give us more side bite. Plus, it's going to give us more forward traction because of a bigger footprint. So let's let some air out of it, and we got 14 pounds in it still, and we'll go down to 8 pounds and see what it does to our weights. Okay, on this test, we took 6 pounds out of our right rear tire of air pressure, and what that did to us, we lost some more right rear weight. The right rear tire went down 9 pounds, and we gained 11 pounds in our left rear tire. The right front has gained 6 pounds, and our total weights now are 397 on the right rear, 357 on the left rear, 217 on the right front, and 340 on the left front. And also, we're starting to lose right rear and gaining left rear and the wing is going to make that worse yet, because the sideboard's going to load the left side of the car in the corner, and we need to even try our weight out in the corner. So we're going to do some cross weight. And the best way to do that, to tighten your car up, is to wind up the left front bar. That way, as the car enters the corner, the left front won't dip down and turn the car out from under itself, and it also loads the right rear all the way through the corner. So we'll wind up the left front a couple of turns and see what that does for our weight. Okay, now we're going to actually put the right rear weight into the car, and as I said, the most effective place that I feel to do that is in the left front bar, because it's going to tighten the left front corner up getting into the corner. And the way we do that is we go to the stop on the, it's actually on the right front corner of the car, and we break the jam nut loose, and we're going to put 2 turns in it because we want to really feel the difference and see what it does. We'll do this a half turn at a time. And we got the jack under the car, so we have weight off the adjuster bolt, so we aren't wearing the bolt into the pad. Okay, there's our turn. Now let's see what our weights did. Okay, and we go back to the scales, and we found out that the right rear tire gained 7 pounds and the left rear tire lost 17 pounds. So we moved 24 pounds of weight at the rear. We moved it across to the right rear. And we moved 14 pounds at the front wheels. And our weights now are 414 pounds at the right rear, 340 at the left rear, 203 at the right front, and 354 at the left front. Now we're going to add some fuel and see how much weight we can gain in the back of the car and get some rear bite. And we're going to have to fuel up a little bit more for the feature race, because it's going to be a longer race. So let's see what happens there. Okay, we've added 60 pounds of weight to the fuel tank because we're getting ready to run the feature now, and the racetrack's a little bit slicker. So let's see what it did to our weight. We picked up 40 pounds at the left rear tire and 42 pounds at the right rear tire. So we gained 82 pounds in the rear, but we only put 60 pounds of fuel in. Well, how did we do that? Well, we lost 22 pounds total across the front wheels. So we've added 82 pounds in the back, and we lost 22 at the front. So that's going to really make our car tight in the rear. Also, it's going to make it a little bit tighter getting in, because the fuel load is above the roll center in the rear, so it's going to make the car want to roll on the right rear a little more. So we're going to be a little tighter getting in, and it's going to want to transfer more weight because the front end's lighter now, and it's easier for it to lift up and transfer weight to the rear wheels. Plus, we got all the weight hanging behind the rear axle, and it's pulling down on the rear wheels. So we're going to be a lot tighter exiting the corner too. So keep in mind that fuel load is a good way to tighten up your car. There's one more test we want to do before we end the testing, and we want to do something that would happen in race conditions, and we're going to turn the front wheels and see what steering does to weight change. For this last test, what we wanted to do was test the car in a racing condition. So what we did was we got the car on the scales, we turned the front wheels all the way to the left and weighed it to see what it did, and then we turned them all the way to the right. And this is what we came up with. When we turned all the way to the left, the right front and the left rear lost weight. So actually, if we're in a pushing condition and we're trying to steer the car, we've lost weight off the right front, and it isn't really helping us any. We've gained some weight. We gained 6 pounds on the left front and gained 2 pounds on the right rear. So our left front's helping us steer a little bit, but we've lost a little bit of weight there. Now, when we turned all the way to the right, it was a more significant change. Our right front and our left rear each gained weight. Our left rear gained 29 pounds, and our right front gained 18 pounds. So if you're in the corner and you're loose and you turn all the wheels all the way to the right and you're trying to save yourself from a spin, it's actually helping transfer weight to the left rear and help straighten the car out by transferring weight also. The right rear, it lost 26 pounds, and the left front lost 21 pounds. So you took weight off of the right rear and put it on the left rear just by turning the wheels all the way to the right. So it was a significant weight change that you made, a cross weight change during racing conditions. There's one other thing: when you're doing anything to your race car, whether it be in the shop or at the racetrack, you should always keep a record of it. Keep it in a book like this or a spiral binder, and whenever you get to different track conditions and you made a change and you found that it worked, you can document it and go back to it. There's 7 race cars in this shop. every one of them has one of these books. Sorry, but we can't look inside of these. In this section, we're going to go to each corner of the car and talk about different track conditions and what we can do to our car to suit the track conditions. We'll start with a sticky racetrack and what we can do there. On a sticky racetrack, we're trying to keep the car from diving on the right front and making the car want to pick up the left rear and make the car too tight. So one of the things we can do is we can stiffen the rate up here at the torsion bar. We can put a 1050 bar in there, a 1065 bar. And if we're going to run without a wing, we want to start with a 1050 bar at least anyway. We want a pretty stiff rate on the right front. Another way we can get that rate without putting a stiffer bar in there is to move our arm out on the axle. And this increases the wheel rate, which is the spring rate out at the wheel, without affecting weight transfer. Makes the car more stable entering the corner and doesn't affect weight transfer. If we move this roller out about 2 inches, it's going to increase approximately 20 pounds of wheel rate. So it's a good way of increasing rate without stiffening your torsion bar. Another way we can do it is by stiffening the shock absorber. A 5 shock is about a medium shock, and we can go to a 6 shock here, which will stop the car from wanting to dive on the right front and make it less likely to lift and transfer weight to the left rear on exit of the corner. So there's a couple of things we can do. Okay, and let's say our racetrack is getting slick and we want to transfer more weight to the left rear. Well, one way of doing that is we could put a softer bar up here on the right front, and that would want to transfer more weight over there. Well, it's hard to do that without the car wanting to sink down on the right front and make the front end stick too much entering the corner, and then it makes it actually makes the car loose on entrance. So we can do one thing. We can stack a bunch of compression bumpers up on our shock. That increases the rate. And if you have a flop tube car, which a lot of people are running now, and you have a long arm on the right front, it's hard to get enough spring rate to enter the corner. So what a lot of guys are doing is stacking bumpers up here. Another way of doing it, and then we still have some suspension, is to put a small coil-over shock up here. And that'll take care of the problem without taking away all our suspension with shock bumpers. Another way is to lighten the damping of the shock, especially on the rebound. They make a shock which is a 2-valving on the rebound and a 6-valving on compression. That way, when you roll into the corner, the car doesn't want to sink down on the right front and make it break loose in the back of the car. And on exit, or the apex of the corner, when a car starts to transfer weight, it'll lift up easy because it has a 2-valving on the extension, and it'll transfer weight to the left rear and make the car want to drive off the corner. Another thing that's come about just recently is a 2-step spring. With this spring, you use just the spring and not a torsion bar, and it actually has one spring for the compression and another spring for the rebound. It actually has 2 seats. There's a seat here for the top spring, and this takes care of entrance into the corner and keeps the car up. And then as the car starts to transfer weight, the smaller spring on the bottom actually pushes the top spring off the seat and pushes the seat up off the shock. And that's another way of transferring weight back to the left rear. And now we'll move on to the left front corner. Okay, here we are at the left front wheel, and we're at a sticky racetrack, and we want to loosen our car up. A couple of the things that we can do is we can lower the front end and get a little bit of negative arm angle on here, to stop the lift of the chassis and stop transferring more weight to the rear wheels. We want to stop transfer because there's enough traction in the racetrack, we don't have to add it to the race car. So we lower this corner. We can also soften this torsion bar up, so as we enter the corner, this corner of the car wants to drop even more. And as this corner goes down, it takes weight off of the right rear. It's an opposite reaction. And this corner goes down, it picks up on the right rear and takes weight off of it. So if we soften the bar, it's going to loosen us up entering the corner. And that'll be more effective with a wing on too. A wing wants to make the car drop on the left side, So if we soften the bar with the wing, it's really going to make it turn getting in the corner. Another thing we can do is we can do that, some things with shocks. They make a shock that's a 7 valving on extension and a 5 valving on compression. The 5 valving is an average valving on compression, so it lets the front drop lightly, but then it stops all the weight transfer. As you're exiting the corner or the center of the corner, when the car wants to rear up on the left front corner and load the right rear wheel, the 5-7 shock stops it from doing that because the 7 valving is stiff on the extension and stops the weight transfer. Other than that, that's pretty much what we can do on the left front corner. If we get to a slick racetrack, we want to transfer weight to the rear wheels. So we can do it with a torsion bar. If we want to tighten our car up getting in, then we'll raise this torsion bar up and get some positive arm angle on here. So it's harder for the car to get down and loosen the car up. We want to keep this arm up entering the corner. Also, we can do the same thing with the shock, just the opposite as we were doing for the heavy conditions. For a slick condition, we want to keep the car from dropping down, and we use a 5 valving for that. But on exit of the corner, we want the car to raise up, so we use a 3 valving. So it's called a 3/5 or a 75/30 in a Pro Shock. And so it allows weight transfer. If we run that with a 2/6 on the right front, then the 2/6 transfers more weight than the left front and actually wedges left rear into the car on exit of the corner and lets the car drive off straight. And that's pretty much what we do with the left front. So now let's move to the left rear corner of the car. Okay, here we are at the left rear corner of the car, and we're at a racetrack that's real sticky and we're trying to loosen our car up. Well, one of the things we can do is we can lower the back end of the car, get some negative angle on this torsion arm. We're a little bit high where we're sitting here now. We can lower this down and it'll let the car glide into the corner a little easier, let the right rear slide, and it put a little bit of tilt in the car. We can lower this side and we can raise the right side, and that puts a little more chassis tilt in it, and that'll loosen it up getting in the corner. We can also put more split in it, and by split we mean a different size bar than we're running on the right side. If we had a pair of 1025 bars in there, we'd be running even. If we had a 1050 in the right and a 1 inch in the left, then we would have split in the car. So we can put more split in the back and allow the wing to shove down more on the left side and take weight off the right side. As you enter the corner and the wing shoves down on the left, it actually brings weight off of the right side. So it'll make the car looser upon entrance of the corner. Then we go to the shock absorber. We can run what we call a tie-down shock. And if we're in a real severe condition, something real sticky and pretty rough, we can run an 8/3 valving shock. And that was a shock that was actually designed to run non-wing, and most of the non-wing cars still run that shock at most racetracks. And it is a 3 valving on compression and an 8 valving on extension. And an 8 valving you can hardly extend with your hand. It's really stiff. So when the car goes into the corner, the 3 valving on the compression lets the car come down and loosens the car on the entrance, and then the 8 valving holds the car down and won't let the chassis roll to the right rear, won't let it pick up this corner of the car. Another thing we can do to loosen the car is we can lower the radius rod in the front. And this one's in the bottom hole here. Now some guys, when they get to extreme conditions, will actually put another 3rd spud down lower, and so they can loosen the car up. The radius rod is pushing against the car on acceleration. So if you put this another hole down here and the radius rod has angle down towards the car, then it's pushing down on the chassis and taking weight off of the wheel. On the other side, if we raise it up to the top hole under acceleration, it's pushing up on the chassis and down on the wheel. So it's taking chassis tilt out of the car at the same time it's pushing the wheel down into the racetrack. So that's one way we can tighten it up on a slippery racetrack. Then moving back to our shock, when we get to a slick condition, we have trouble entering the corner and the wing is wanting to shove the car down on the left side, we can stack up compression bumpers on the shock. That way the shock is only allowed to go down so far, and it bottoms against the compression bumper and won't allow the car to sink anymore. And we can put these, stack these on top of each other so the shock will move only a little bit, or we can move where it almost bottoms out against the shaft. So you can adjust how tight you want your car by the compression bumper. Then we want to keep the shock where it's a little bit lighter on the rebound, so we'll put either a 4-valving shock or a 5-valving shock over here. And then we go to the torsion arm and the torsion bar. When we want to tighten a car up, we need to raise the height up and take tilt out of it. So as we enter the corner and the wing is trying to push the car down, it's harder to push it down. We'll put a stiffer rate here, a little more arm angle, so it keeps the car tighter entering the corner. It keeps this corner up and transfers more weight over to the right rear. And we can stiffen this rate up and keep the wing off the left side, and it also will exit the corner faster. It'll load this bar up entering the corner without pushing it over center and making the car loose. And then on exit of the corner, this bar will unwrap and drive the wheel into the racetrack and help drive the car off straighter and harder on exit of the corner. And so that's the left rear. Now let's go to the right rear. Okay, here we are at the right rear corner, and what a racetrack that's sticky and we want to loosen our car up. One of the first things we can do is we can move the wheel out. Like we talked about in our test, we had a 3-inch offset at first, and we saw that it took a lot of weight off of this wheel. And that's what we want to do to loosen the car up. Another thing we can do over here is we can raise the air pressure, and that cuts down the tire footprint and also stops the tire from rolling under in the corner. Those are two things that will loosen us up. Okay, and then we can go to the torsion arm, and we can raise it up because we're going to put tilt in it. We let the left side down, we raise this side up. That'll help loosen us up. If the track's pretty rough and we need more damping and it's real sticky, we can put a 6 shock here. We can take the 5 off and go to a 6 shock. Okay, then we go up to our radius rod. And remember we talked about the angle. Radius rod is pushing on the chassis. So the racetrack is sticky and we want to jack tilt into the car instead of take tilt out. So to loosen the car, we can actually raise this up and lower it in the back so we have angle going up to the frame. So under acceleration, we're actually pushing up on the frame and giving the chassis tilt. Then as we go to a slick condition, we put it back down here, or just an average condition. We don't raise the right side up that often. Okay, the racetrack's getting slippery, and we want to transfer more weight over here. We want to let this corner sink down and let this corner hold more weight. So we can soften the shock absorber is one thing we can do. We can go from a 5 shock to a 4 shock and just allow this corner to sink down and get more weight on it. Also, we can soften the torsion bar, and we can lower the right side of the car down, take some tilt out of it, and allow the car to roll over on the right rear a little bit more and plant the right rear tire more. Another thing that you could do, most cars it's not adjustable, is you can move the Jacob's ladder down, and it actually lowers the roll center and will cause the car to roll more on the right rear. Most cars, this isn't adjustable. Okay, now we have the wing on our car. Let's talk a little bit about why a wing works. The reason a wing works is we have more air velocity flowing under the wing than we do over the top of the wing, and creates a low pressure area and downforce in this area and pushes the race car down into the racetrack. Well, how do we want to create more downforce without having more wing angle? There's a couple ways we can do that. One is we can slow the air flow across the top of the wing by damming it into the back, on the back of the wing with what we call a wicker bill or a gurney lip. Another way we can create more downforce without more wing angle is to put a dip in the center of our airfoil, and that'll create more of a low pressure area and more downforce. Okay, a location of our wing. We always want to start with our wing approximately 6 to 8 inches in front of the left header tube, and that's how I measure it. And what I do is just put a tape measure up against the leading edge of the wing, and then we go down and we look at the header pipe, and we see the relationship between the tape measure and the header pipe. Okay, now the racetrack is slicked up, we're ready to go out and run the feature, and we want to put a little more downforce on our wing. So we're going to install a wicker bill. Some tracks and different associations now are making a lot of rules about how high a wicker bill you can run. So you have to check on your whatever racetrack and association you're running to find out how much you can stack up on here. Some wings put them at a 90-degree angle. This wing happens to be back at a 45. Either way, it's going to accomplish the same thing. We might have a little less drag with it laid back at a 45-degree angle. Now, when you put this on, it's going to create a lot more downforce in the rear of the car, so you may have to move your wing forward a little bit from what you had it. When we go out to start the race, we're going to have a full load of fuel, so the car is going to be heavier in the rear and want to stick more on the rear wheel. So we're going to have to want to start with our car as tight as we can, with our wing as far forward as we can, and then as the fuel load goes out of the car, we can use our hydraulic slider and keep moving the wing back as the race goes on and the track slicks up and your fuel load goes out. So now we've stuck the back end of the car, and we want to balance it so we can steer it with the front. So let's go to the nose wing. Okay, now we're at the front wing of the car, and granted this is a balancing tool for our race car, but if we have a pushing condition in our car, the front wing will not cure it by putting more angle in it, but it will put more pressure on the front end. If we have a problem exiting the corner and our front end is dancing around from some holes and our front end is a little bit light, or we're wandering around down the straightaway, we can put a little more pitch in our front wing and put a little more pressure on the front end of the car and make the car more stable. Or if we're on a racetrack where we want a little more weight transfer and the nose wing isn't as critical, we can flatten it out and create more lift in the front end. Now we've covered setups and cross weight and tires and stagger and wings. Let's take a trip to the racetrack and see how all these things apply. For those of you that think wheelies are neat, here's 3 reasons why they aren't. Number 1, when the front wheels are in the air, all you can see is the hood, and you can't see down the racetrack. Number 2 is when the front wheels are in the air, the stagger is trying to drive the car to the infield. And number 3 is accidents like this can happen. And this accident destroyed 2 race cars, and that's not a desirable condition. Now here's a perfect example of the tracks that's the stickiest and the roughest possible. And this is a condition where you want your car as loose as you can possibly get it. Now watch the 69 car, and this car ends up winning the race, and he goes up where the track is actually the roughest. And we'll watch how his car runs through the holes and flows through them nice and doesn't upset. He drives the car as straight as he possibly can so he doesn't get sideways and snag the ruts, and keeps the best possible forward motion going. He's got his right rear wheel offset as much as he can possibly stick it out. He's running as much as 20-22 pounds of air pressure in the right rear. He's got the left side of his car tied down with the shock absorbers. He's running as much as a 8 valving on the left rear rebound and a 3 on compression, and maybe a 7 on a rebound on the left front and a 5 on the compression. He's got his wing as far forward as he can possibly get it, and maybe offset a little bit to the left to further take weight off the right rear. He's got as much spring rate as he can get on the right side, and backed off of the spring rate a little bit on the left side to give him some split. He's got his wing as far forward and left, and also he runs a low enough gear where he can use the motor to loosen the car up and get the tires spinning. If you run a high gear where it bogs the motor, it doesn't let the tires spin, and also it torques the car over and further tightens up the right rear. It's important on a restart to remember from the driver's meeting where the leader of the race is eligible to pick up the gas and start the race from. It's also important to watch the car that's leading the race pick up the gas instead of reacting to the car directly in front of you. If you wait for the car in front of you to react to the start of the race, then you're going to be behind. It's also important to remember where the car in front of you was running on the racetrack when the yellow came out, so you have some idea where he's going to go when the race resumes, and you can make a move to attempt to pass this car. Now here's a racetrack that has a slick condition, but it has a cushion to lean against here. You want your car tight enough where you don't have to rely on the cushion to hold your car, and you can also be maneuverable and run down on the bottom. As you can see in this tape, that there's cars utilizing the bottom of the racetrack, and it's a shorter way around, and there's a little bit of moisture down there now where these cars are getting hooked up down there. So a guy wants to have his car where it's maneuverable. You have to run traffic, so you'll have to use the bottom, plus it makes it easier to drive around the top. Here's a good example of how to make a pass on the bottom. Watch the 69 car here. He'll dive down underneath the 7 car, shows his nose, and gets the 7 car to come down off the groove he's been running. Now he's in unfamiliar territory, goes in, misses his line, slides up, and the 69 car drove in high so he could drive down across the bottom with more exit speed and make the pass. Another important thing to be learned here is to not drive with your emotions when you get past. If you get past, sometimes you're better off just to take a deep breath and start racing over again. See the 7 car hopped the cushion on both corners here and lost ground. Now, if you're going to take your car to a day race on a dirt track, there's a 100% chance that the track is going to be dry slick, at least sometime during the day. So this is a time where you need to let the air out of your tires, get down to between 6 and 8 pounds on the right rear tire, take some stagger out so your car drives straight, use a little more wing angle, use a wicker bill on the back of your wing, lighten up on the torsion bars on the right side in the front, use some light rebound shocks on the front, and maybe a light shock like a 4 shock on the right rear, so it'll lay on the right rear and hook up the right rear a little bit more. Gearing is very important on a slick racetrack. A lot of guys will automatically go to a high gear on a slick racetrack, but there's one thing you have to remember is the corner speed is way down, and you can use a lower gear for braking and taking off from the lower speed on a corner. Now here's something that you need to watch out for on a day racetrack. If the weather is warm, the racetrack will start taking rubber and actually get stickier, and it'll wear tires. You can watch the 14 car. He ends up winning the race, and he has the straightest pattern out there. He doesn't smoke his tire, and keeps his car nice and straight, and his tire's still there at the end. So if the track is, if the temperature is hot, keep an eye on the racetrack. If it starts getting black, then you're going to have to go to a harder compound tire and actually loosen your car up like you're going to run on a sticky racetrack at night. Now here's an example of what happens to a car when you don't have enough stagger to turn the corner. You run in the middle of into the corner, and right in the center of the corner, the left rear will start overdriving the right rear and cause the car to push. Now let's watch this 83 car. He gets in there, and just when he wants to get back in the gas, the front end will push because the left rear is driving too hard, and he can't roll the corner as nice as he wants to. And then it drives him up off of the groove coming off the corner. But there's an important thing to be learned here is this driver compensates for what his car is not doing right, and he changes his style to fit his car and the track conditions. He starts driving into the corner using a little more slip angle, a little more sideways entering the corner, and picks up the gas earlier in the corner to get the tires spinning, and uses his slip angle getting into the corner to drive the car off instead of using the stagger to turn the car. On a racetrack with a fast top groove and no middle or bottom groove, the only way to pass sometimes is a slide job. Here we'll watch the 7 car and the 56 car give each other a couple of slide jobs, and part of slide job etiquette is when you're sliding up to the car you're trying to pass is to make sure you can clear his front bumper or front wheels. We don't want to hit him in the side and knock him out of the race. All we want to do is just knock a little bit of their momentum off here. So the 7 car, he comes back, takes a shorter line, and slides back up in front of this 56 car. Now the 56 car, to prevent this from happening to him, he drives in low and lets the car slide up to the top and takes the same line that would be taken to give him a slide job, and this allows him to stay ahead of the 7 car. As we can see in this case, the 56 car used the racetrack to his best advantage and prevailed in this case. But as we all know, this is only one race, and the 7 car will have a chance to come back another time. And as the checkered flag falls on this race, so does the flag fall on our racing segment of this tape. Well, that was fun. We hope everybody enjoyed it and benefited from what you saw today. And as we tried to cover everything as far as basics of sprint car setup, conditions, it's hard to put everything into a tape. And what I suggest is, for more detailed instruction, is this book by Steve Smith Motorports. It goes into a little more detail and technical aspects of the sprint car racing. So that's all for today. Thank you, and I'll see you at the races.